Picture a runner coming down the final street. It's dark out, early, the kind of hour where the streetlights are still doing most of the work. There's no crowd, no commentary, just the sound of 2 feet hitting the ground in a rhythm they've held for years. And then the tape. She hits it clean, chest first, arms wide, and her eyes go straight up to the clock. And there it is, the number. The number she has been chasing for so long she almost forgot it was a number and not just a feeling. $1 million, or the house with nothing owed on it, or maybe just that word, enough. Whatever her number was, the clock is showing it right now, glowing, honest, hers. For about 4 seconds, that time is completely true. She earned every digit of it in the dark. Nobody clocked her in. Nobody's clocking her now. It's just her and the number, and 4 beautiful, uncorrected seconds. Then someone walks over. He's got a clipboard, lanyard, the unhurried walk of a man who is never, ever in a rush, because the race is already over, and he holds the pen. He looks at the clock, he looks at his sheet, and he starts doing arithmetic. Quiet arithmetic. Nobody in the stands. There are no stands. Nobody sees the math. He subtracts something for this. He subtracts something for that. He carries a number nobody explained to her when she started. And then he tears off the slip and hands it to her. A second number. Slower. Smaller. Official. Nobody watched the first number. And nobody, not one single person, is going to argue with the second. That gap between the time she posted and the time that actually counts, that gap is the whole story of building money. It's the correction nobody warns you is coming, right up until you're bent over at the tape, hands on your knees, still believing the first number. Welcome back to Modern Wealth. I'm Neo. Let's talk about the race you're already running and the official who's already walking toward you. Here's the thing about this race. Nobody clocks you into it. There's no starting gun, no official on the line saying, runners, set. You just start, quietly. On some ordinary Tuesday, you set up an automatic transfer, and that's it. You're racing. And the beauty of it, the actual genius of it, is that it's invisible. Because a race nobody can see you running is a race nobody can talk you out of.
Think about that. Every bad money decision you've ever almost made had an audience. Somebody talks you into the upgrade. Somebody talks you out of the boring choice. Somebody at the table orders the thing, and now you're ordering the thing. But you can't be talked out of a pace nobody knows you're keeping. Invisibility isn't a bug in this plan. Invisibility is the whole engine. And it has to be boring. That's not an accident either. This race is designed to be dull on purpose, because boredom is what keeps the crowd from ever gathering. A dramatic race, big bets, hot stocks, timing the market, that race draws a crowd, and a crowd is exactly the thing that eventually talks you off your pace at the worst possible moment. So we make it boring. We make it automatic. We make it so quiet that even you forget you're doing it. That's not the flaw in the strategy. That is the strategy. So let's watch the training. In the dark, where it belongs. You put $400 a month on autopilot. You don't feel it, you don't fight it, it just leaves. At a 7% return over 30 years, that quiet little habit becomes around $500,000. And here's the part that should make you sit up. You only put in about $144,000 of your own money. The rest showed up while you weren't looking. Run it 40 years instead of 30, and that same $400 a month crosses $1 million. $1 million, built by a transfer so small you forgot to be impressed by it. Nobody watched that. That's the point. Nobody clapped at year 7. Nobody threw a party at year 19. There was no moment where the growth got interesting enough for anyone to notice. And that's precisely why it survived. Because the parts of this that nobody notices are the parts that nobody can interrupt. You just kept your feet moving in the dark, and the dark kept the money safe from opinions, including your own. Now, while you're running, somebody hands you a free pacer. That's your 401k match. Your employer runs beside you for part of the distance for free if you just show up. $200 a month in match money, money that is not coming out of your pocket, that alone can grow to around $250,000 over 30 years. On your zero, on nothing you contributed. And in 2026, you're allowed to put up to $24,500 of your own in there on top of it. A pacer that fast, running for free, and most people just wave him off. Don't wave him off.
Then there's the headwind. Because you don't just run forward in this race, you run against things. And the ugliest headwind out there is high interest debt. Say you've got $6,000 sitting on a card at 22%. 22%. That is a guaranteed, gusting, straight-in-your-face 22% headwind. And there is no investment on earth that reliably pays you enough to outrun it. So you cut it loose. Say you were paying $150 a month, 6+ years to clear it, about $5,000 in interest handed over for nothing. Double the payment to $300 and you're done in roughly 2 years with only about $1,500 in interest. You didn't earn a dime doing that. You just stopped bleeding into the wind. Same thing as a tailwind. Feels even better. And the last habit, my favorite, because it's the sneakiest. You bank half your raise. Your pay goes up $800 a month. Congratulations. And instead of letting your life inflate to swallow all of it, you send $400 straight into the race and let yourself enjoy the other $400. Over 25 years, that banked half becomes more than $320,000. And nobody around you ever saw you speed up. Your car looked the same, your lunch looked the same. You just quietly got faster in a way that was completely invisible from the outside. One more, while we're being honest about the course. 2 runners can run the exact same distance and post wildly different times because of drag. Put $10,000 in, add $500 a month, run it 30 years. In a low-cost index fund, you land around $685,000. In a typical actively managed fund, chipping away about 2% a year in fees and drag, you land around $460,000. That's a $220,000 leak, and it leaks because you ran slower. It leaks because someone was quietly siphoning your pace the whole way. 2% a year sounds like a rounding error. It sounds polite. It sounds like nothing. And over 30 years, it quietly walks off with 1/5 of your finish. Cheap shoes. Get the cheap, boring, low-drag shoes and let the 2% stay in your legs where it belongs. So that's the training. Auto-invested contributions. A free pacer you refuse to wave off. A headwind you cut loose. Half a raise banked in the dark. Low drag. None of it flashy. All of it invisible. And that invisibility is exactly why the pace holds for 30 years. Because nobody, not even you on your weekdays, ever gets a clean look at the race to argue you out of it. And then one day, you break the tape. You cross your number. You hit the million, or the paid-off house, or the balance that finally spells enough. And here's what nobody tells you about that moment. It feels like a Tuesday. There are no fireworks. The sky does not open. Your phone does not know. You refresh the account, and there it is, a 1 with 6 zeros behind it. And the exact emotional payload of that moment is roughly equal to remembering you need to buy dish soap. That's it. You did a genuinely rare, genuinely hard thing, a thing most people never do, and the universe marks the occasion by being completely, insultingly normal. And I want to be really clear about something here, because it's the hinge of this whole story. That number is real. It is not a lie. It is not fake. You didn't imagine it. You ran the distance in the dark for years, and you posted an honest time. For about 4 seconds, standing there at the tape, that number is completely, unimpeachably true. Every digit is yours. You should feel it. You should let yourself have those 4 seconds, because they're earned and they're real. And I don't ever want you to hear what comes next as it didn't count. It counted. I want to sit here a second, actually, because most people don't. Most people sprint straight past their own finish line without ever looking up at the clock, already anxious about the next number, already scoring themselves against somebody further down the road.
And that's a tragedy, quietly, because you only crossed this particular tape once. The first time your net worth starts with a number you used to daydream about, that only happens once. Look up. It's real. Let the clock be honest for its 4 seconds, because you paid for those 4 seconds in advance, in 30 years of dark mornings.
It's just that the number is about to get corrected, right in front of you, and you're going to get exactly 0 votes on the correction. That's not a punishment, and it's not a trick. It's just the part of the race nobody described to you at the start, because they were busy telling you to save. So take your 4 seconds. Breathe. Look up at the honest number one more time. Because here comes the guy with the clipboard. And here's the unsettling thing about him. He's not cheating. He's not the villain. Every line on his clipboard is a real, legitimate rule that was written down somewhere long before you laced up. That's what makes it land so hard. You can't appeal it, you can't call it unfair, you can't accuse anyone of stealing. It's all perfectly legal, perfectly disclosed, perfectly official. It was just disclosed in a font nobody reads at a moment nobody's looking, which is right about now. He starts with inflation, and this is the quietest cut of all, because he doesn't touch the number on your clock, he just changes what it's worth. Your $1 million. Say it out loud, it sounds enormous, but $1 million in today's money has the buying power of about $514,000 back in the year 2000. Go back to 1980, and your million spends like about $246,000. Same digits on the clock, half the reach or less. He didn't slow you down. He just quietly restated what your posted time actually buys, and the restatement is not in your favor. Then he moves to taxes. And if that money is sitting in a traditional pre-tax retirement account, I need you to meet your silent partner, the IRS. They've been on your cap table this whole time. They just never sent a statement. That pre-tax million, it isn't really $1 million. After the silent partner takes his cut when you pull it out, you're realistically looking at something closer to $700,000 of actual spendable money. $300,000 gone to a partner you never interviewed and can't fire. And he's not patient about it either. Starting at age 73, the tax code forces you to start withdrawing required minimum distributions, whether you need the money or not. On a balance like this, that's around $37,700 a year you are made to pull out and pay tax on the government schedule, not yours. You don't get to leave it alone to grow. The silent partner wants his cut, and he'll set the timer himself. Next line on his clipboard, healthcare. And this one he escrows right off the top, before he'll even call your result official. A 65-year-old couple retiring today can expect to spend around $345,000 on healthcare over the rest of their lives. $345,000. So before you get to spend a single dollar of your number on a life, on travel, on grandkids, on doing nothing on a porch, the official quietly fences off a chunk that big and labels it medical, non-negotiable. It's not yours to dream with. It was spoken for before you crossed. And then he does the last piece of arithmetic, the one that turns your monument back into a paycheck. The 4% rule. The idea that to make your money last, you spend about 4% of it a year. On $1 million, that is $40,000 a year. Be generous. Call it 47. Read that back to yourself. The number you chased for 30 years, the number that felt like a mountaintop, pays out like a normal salary. A fine salary, an ordinary, middle-of-the-road, nothing special salary. The mountain, it turns out, was always just a slightly larger than average annual income wearing a very convincing costume. Inflation discounted the time. The silent partner took his haircut. Healthcare got escrowed off the top. And the 4% rule shrank the monument down to a salary. He tears off the slip, hands it to you, and walks away. The adjusted time is the only one that spends. It's smaller, and you didn't get a vote on a single line of it.
Now, I told you I wouldn't let you hear this as the training was a mistake. So hear me. None of that math means the race was pointless. The person standing at that tape with an adjusted million is in a staggeringly better spot than the person who never ran. The correction isn't a verdict on your effort. It's just a fine print, finally read out loud. And fine print you can plan around, if somebody hands it to you before the gun instead of after the tape. But the official isn't the cruelest scorer in the story. You are. Because there's one more handicap, and it's the one you apply to yourself, and it's the one that stings the most, because it doesn't come from the tax code or the Fed. It comes from inside your own head, and it moves the second you touch your number.
Here's the outside version of it first. Ask Americans today how much money it takes to feel wealthy, and the answer comes back at around $2.3 million. $2.3 million. That's more than double the million you just spent 30 years in every ounce of your discipline crossing. So the very afternoon you break your tape, the crowd has quietly agreed that the real finish was somewhere over 2 miles further up the road. And it gets lonelier than that. Of the households that actually have $1 million to invest, only about 8% of them describe themselves as wealthy. 8%. The other 92% are standing exactly where you are, holding a real, earned, honest million, looking around going, wait, this doesn't feel like the word. But the outside crowd isn't the problem. You are. Because you do the same thing to yourself, and you've been doing it the whole time. Think back. There was a version of you years ago for whom $40,000 in the bank would have felt like breathing room, like safety, like enough. Then you got close to it, and the second you did, enough quietly became $100,000. And you got close to that, and enough became $250,000. Your finish line has a score living behind your own eyes, and every time you approach the tape, that score leans over and revises your target upward before your foot even lands. You are, at the exact same moment, the runner and the official walking over to restate the number. That's the cruelest correction of all, because you can out-train a lot of things, but you cannot out-sprint the score when the score is you. And notice what's actually happening in that move, because it's sneaky. The score never lets you arrive. That's its entire function. It takes the genuine relief you should feel at 40,000 and it defers it to 100. And then it takes the relief you should feel at 100 and defers it to 250. And the relief just keeps getting held one exit further up the highway, forever, until you look back at 40 years of running and realize you never once let yourself feel arrived. Not for 4 seconds, not for 1. That's not a money problem. No amount of money fixes a score that's designed to keep moving. That's a decision you have to make with your feet still on the track.
And it gets worse for one sneaky reason. Net worth is not spendable cash. Your number on the screen is not money in your hand. The median American household net worth is around $193,000, but a huge slice of that is home equity, the walls you sleep inside. Strip the house out, and the median drops to around $58,000 of actual get-at-it money. So even the number you're comparing yourself to is wearing a costume. Half of it is a roof you can't spend without becoming homeless. So you've got two officials at your tape, the one with the clipboard, subtracting for inflation and taxes and healthcare, and the one behind your own eyes, adding to the target the instant you approach it. And between the two of them, if you're not careful, you will run a perfect, disciplined 30-year race and arrive convinced you failed. Not because you failed, because you were scored twice by rules nobody read to you at the start. So what do we do with all that? Not this. We do not stop running. I need that to be loud. Every single invisible habit we talked about, the 400 a month on autopilot, the free pacer you refuse to wave off, the headwind you cut loose, the half raise banked in the dark, the cheap, low-drag shoes, every one of those is exactly right, and you keep all of them unchanged. The training was never the mistake. The training is the only reason you're standing at a tape at all. Do not let anyone, including me, talk you out of a race that's working just because the scoring is rigged. Here's the one thing that changes. Just one.
You size your finish line in adjusted dollars from day one. That's it. That's the whole fix. When you pick your number, you don't pick it in shiny, unadjusted today's headline money, because a number picked in unadjusted money gets silently restated smaller the instant you cross it, and you already watched the man with the clipboard do exactly that. Instead, you pick your number in the money that actually spends, after tax, after inflation, after the healthcare that's already escrowed off the top. You do the official's arithmetic yourself, up front, before the gun, so that the time you're chasing is already the time that counts. You don't get ambushed at the tape because you invited the official to the starting line and did his math in daylight. Train for your adjusted time, not your posted time.
If you need 40 grand a year of real, spendable, after-everything money to live the life you actually want, then you back into the number that produces that, and that's your tape. Not a round, pretty, unadjusted number you saw in a headline. A real one. A boring one. A true one. And when you cross it, the official can walk over with his clipboard and do all the quiet arithmetic he wants, and you'll just nod, because you already did it. There's no gap to fall into, because you closed it years ago at the starting line. And that score behind your own eyes, the one that keeps sliding the target from 40 to 100 to 250, you don't defeat that one with more money. You never will. That race is unwinnable by design. You defeat it by deciding on purpose in advance what enough actually is for you, in real dollars, and then having the nerve to believe your own number when your foot hits the tape, to look up at an honest clock and let it be honest, to take your 4 seconds and actually keep them. Because here's the truth of the whole thing. The race is real, and you can absolutely win it. You just have to be the one who reads the fine print out loud at the start, instead of letting a stranger with a clipboard read it to you at the finish when it's too late to run it any differently. Run the invisible race, exactly as it is. Just size the finish in dollars that survive the correction. Do that, and the number you post is the number you keep. I'm Neo. Keep running in the dark.